The main issue with this whole debate is very simple. People keep trying to turn LeBron James losing in the finals into something that is somehow more impressive than Michael Jordan winning in the finals. That makes no sense. Losing is losing. It does not matter how many excuses people build around it, and it does not matter how many stats they put on the screen to soften the blow. At the end of the day, the finals is where your legacy is supposed to shine the brightest. That is where the job is, to finish the season on top. Michael Jordan got there 6 times and won 6 times. LeBron James got there 10 times and lost 6 times. That should not be turned into some deep mystery. One man closed every time. The other man did not. That is the heart of the debate, and that is the part so many people try to dance around. What the media often does is take LeBron's losses and frame them like proof of greatness all by themselves. They say he faced harder teams. They say he carried weak rosters. They say getting there matters more than finishing the job. They say some of those losses should almost count like wins because the teams on the other side were so strong. But if that is the case, then why does that logic only seem to show up for LeBron? Why are other all-time great players not given the same treatment when they lost? Why do we not hear people praise Jerry West's losses in the same way? Why do we not hear people say Shaq's or Kobe's or Duncan's defeats should make them look better than winners? The truth is, this special rule seems to get created only when people want to protect LeBron in the greatest of all time debate. And that is why so many fans get frustrated. It is not because LeBron is not great. Of course he is great. He is one of the best players ever. That part is not up for debate. The problem is the way the conversation gets twisted. It stops being about what happened and becomes about how much spin can be placed on what happened. We are told that if LeBron lost, then the other team must have been unbeatable. If Jordan won, then the other team must not have been that good. Think about how backwards that is. If Jordan wins, the opponent gets downgraded. If LeBron loses, the opponent gets upgraded. That is not fair analysis. That is a built-in bias. Michael Jordan is in a very unusual position in sports history because he never lost in the finals. That matters. It matters a lot. When the pressure was highest, when the lights were brightest, when the whole year came down to one stage, he never left that stage as the loser. That is not some small side note. That is one of the strongest facts in the whole debate. But somehow people have found a way to talk around it. They act like going 6-0 is not as strong as going 4-6 because the 6 losses came against great teams. But that only works if you ignore the value of finishing the job. Winning the title is the whole point. The finals is not a participation award. It is not a place where effort gets ranked above results. Another thing that gets ignored is that Jordan's finals opponents were not weak. This idea that Jordan just walked through soft competition is one of the biggest myths in basketball talk. He beat Magic Johnson in the Lakers. He beat Clyde Drexler's Trailblazers. He beat Charles Barkley's Suns. He beat Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp in Seattle. He beat Karl Malone and John Stockton's Jazz twice. Those were not joke teams. Those were elite teams, loaded with talent, loaded with experience, and in many cases, loaded with Hall of Fame players. But because Jordan beat them, people now act like they were nothing special. That is the trick. Once Jordan wins, the opponent suddenly gets treated like they were overrated. Now compare that to how LeBron's losses are discussed. When he loses, especially in the finals, the first thing many people do is rush to explain why it was not really his fault. They bring up injuries, they bring up teammates, they bring up the strength of the other side. They show his points, rebounds, and assists like that somehow erases the result. Yes, stats matter. Yes, context matters. But winning matters most.
It is not just that he won 6 titles. It is that he never let the finals end in defeat. He never gave people a chance to turn his failures into talking points because he did not fail there. And that puts a lot of pressure on anyone trying to build the case for LeBron over him, because how do you top 6 wins and no losses? One way people try to do it is by changing what matters. They say the road matters more than the finish. They say reaching the finals in a weak conference is greatness, even if you lose badly once you get there. They say it is better to lose on the biggest stage than to lose before it. But if that is true, then we should also punish players less for losing earlier. You cannot have it both ways. Let's talk about the idea of harder competition, because this gets used all the time. Yes, some of the teams LeBron faced were great. The 2017 and 2018 Warriors were loaded, no question. But every finals loss does not belong in the same box. The 2007 Spurs beat a very young LeBron, fine. The 2011 Mavericks, though, that one matters a lot. That was a series LeBron could have won, and many people believe he should have won. He did not play up to the level expected of a superstar in his prime. Then there was 2014 against the Spurs, a team that played amazing team basketball and completely outclassed Miami. Then 2015, 2017, and 2018 against Golden State. Some of those teams were stronger, yes, but stronger competition does not turn a loss into something equal to a win. It can explain a loss, it cannot replace a win. And that is the key difference. Explaining is not the same as excusing. Nobody says LeBron had to win every single final series. That is not the point. The point is that if we are comparing him to Jordan, the losses matter. They have to matter. You cannot just wash them away because the teams were tough. Jordan also faced pressure, talent, experience, and big-time stars. And unlike LeBron, Jordan did not leave the finals with 6 losses attached to his record. If the goal is to find the player with the stronger finals legacy, then Jordan is clearly ahead. That should not even be hard to admit. You can still love LeBron's game and respect his career without trying to bend reality on this point. What also gets lost in this debate is the way other legends are judged. Think about Jerry West. He lost many finals, and he lost them against a dynasty in Boston and great New York teams. Those were brutal matchups. If we use the same logic people use for LeBron, then Jerry West should get huge credit for losing to all-time teams. But that is not how history talks about him. History says he was great, but the losses still count. The same goes for many other stars. They are judged by the result. So why is LeBron so often treated like his finals losses are proof of greatness, while other players' finals losses are treated like stains? That is not a basketball rule. That is a media rule created for one player. Then there's the issue of how competition is measured. Some people throw out numbers like regular season wins, point differential, or advanced ratings as if those numbers settle everything. But basketball is not that clean. A team can have a great regular season and not be the same team in the finals. A team can have a lower rating and still be much tougher because of style, experience, health, or matchup problems. This is why just flashing one number on the screen does not tell the whole story. A lot of people lean on stats they barely explain. They toss out ratings to make one era sound stronger or weaker, but they do not ask whether those numbers can really be compared across totally different times in the league. That is where the conversation gets lazy. When you really look at Jordan's 6 finals opponents, what stands out is that they were all high-level teams. They were not all dynasties, but they were all dangerous. The 1991 Lakers still had magic and experience. The 1992 Blazers had firepower and confidence. The 1993 Suns had the league MVP in Barkley and a loaded group around him. The 1996 Sonics were deep, athletic, and tough on defense. The 1997 and 1998 Jazz were smart, steady, and built around one of the best duos of that era. These are not teams you laugh at. These are not soft opponents. If another all-time great had beaten those teams,
There's nothing wrong with respecting great effort in a loss, but that respect should not grow so big that it starts to stand above winning itself. If someone drops 35, 10, and 10 and loses the series badly, that can still be impressive, but it is still not the same as leading your team to a title. Jordan's greatness is not just in the numbers. It is in the ending, the parade, the trophy, the fact that the season finished with his team on top. That final result is what sports are built on. And this is why the phrase, finals losses are better than finals wins because of competition, sounds so strange when you really say it out loud. Imagine saying that in any other sport. Imagine telling a quarterback that losing the Super Bowl several times is better than another quarterback winning every Super Bowl he reached because the defenses were harder. People would laugh at that. They would say winning is what matters. Yet in basketball talk, especially around LeBron, this idea has somehow been normalized. That does not make it true. It just means it has been repeated enough that some fans have accepted it without stopping to think about how silly it really sounds. Another point that deserves attention is how LeBron's own wins are talked about compared to Jordan's wins. If we're going to talk honestly, not all of LeBron's championship runs were equal either. The 2012 title against Oklahoma City was strong. The 2013 title against San Antonio was big, even though it came down to the wire and needed a miracle moment to keep Miami alive. The 2016 title against Golden State is the crown jewel of LeBron's career, and no one can take that away from him. Coming back from 3-1 was amazing, but the 2020 title against Miami does not carry the same weight in many fans' eyes as Jordan's 6 titles. So if we are being balanced, LeBron has wins that deserve praise, but he also has losses that deserve criticism. You cannot only count one side. And about that 2016 Warriors series, even that gets framed in a way that helps LeBron more than anyone else would be helped. People say he beat a 73-win team, which is true on paper, but that finals team was not in perfect shape. There were injuries, suspensions, and clear changes in rhythm during the series. That does not erase the win, not at all. LeBron earned it. But if people want to examine Jordan's opponents with a microscope, then they should be willing to examine LeBron's best win with that same microscope too. Fair is fair. If context matters for Jordan's wins, it should matter for LeBron's wins. If context matters for LeBron's losses, it should also matter for Jordan's wins. The problem is that many people only want context when it helps one player. This is also where the eye test comes in. Many longtime fans simply saw Jordan as the more complete killer on the biggest stage. He did not just score, he controlled games, he defended, he set the tone. He had that hard edge where the other team knew the door was going to close if the game got tight late. LeBron is a great all-around player, maybe the best all-around player ever in some ways, but the same fear factor in the finals was not always there. There were series where he dominated. There were also series where he looked passive at key moments, or where the game seemed to slip away from him without the same kind of answer Jordan gave over and over again. That difference matters to a lot of people, even if it is hard to measure with a spreadsheet. There is also a bigger problem with modern sports talk. Too many people treat numbers like they are the whole story. A player can have better efficiency, more rebounds, more assists, and more total points, and that becomes the entire argument. But if that player did not finish more seasons as champion, then something is missing. Basketball is not just about collecting totals. It's about leading a team through the hardest rounds against the best teams with everything on the line. Jordan's finals record is powerful because it shows perfect finishing. LeBron's finals record shows amazing longevity and consistency in reaching the stage, but it also shows repeated failure to close at the very end. Both things can be true. The issue is that many people want to talk about only one of them, and that is why this debate keeps getting pushed into weird territory. Instead of saying Jordan was the better finals winner and LeBron had the longer run of elite play, some people try to force every category toward LeBron. They want the wins, the losses, the stats, the longevity, and the story all to bend in one direction. But sports history does not need that kind of rewriting. It is okay for LeBron to be an all-time great and still not have a better finals case than Jordan. That should not be insulting. It should just be honest. There is no shame in being behind the player many still see as the highest standard in basketball history. What really drives people crazy is the double standard. If Jordan had ever lost 6 finals, the media would never let it go. They would use it every day. They would say he could not get it done. They would say he came up short on the biggest stage. They would make graphics, lists, and debates around it forever. But when it is LeBron, the same media turns into defense lawyers. Suddenly, every loss needs a full case file. Every defeat comes with a speech. Every series needs an excuse package. That kind of protection is exactly why fans push back so hard. Not because they hate LeBron, but because they can feel the unfairness in the way the story is told. The cleanest way to look at this is simple. Reaching the finals is great. Winning the finals is greater. Losing in the finals is not better than winning in the finals just because the opponent had a stronger name. Competition matters, but results matter more. Michael Jordan's 6 finals wins stand as 6 finished jobs. LeBron's 6 finals losses stand as 6 seasons that did not end with the title. That does not erase his greatness, but it does separate him from Jordan in one of the most important parts of the debate. You can praise LeBron for carrying weak teams. You can praise him for surviving the East for so many years. You can praise him for numbers, longevity, and versatility. But you cannot honestly say that 6 losses on the biggest stage are somehow stronger than 6 wins with no losses. And maybe that is the part people need to hear most. You do not have to tear LeBron down to say Jordan did this part better. That is not hate. That is not disrespect. That is just keeping the standard where it belongs. Jordan built a finals legacy that is almost impossible to match because it mixed great play with perfect results. LeBron built a huge career with amazing numbers and unbelievable staying power, but his finals record leaves room for criticism. That is fair. That is how sports works. Every legend has strengths and weak spots on the record. The problem only starts when people try to erase the weak spots for one player while using them against everyone else. In the end, the media can keep trying to sell the idea that LeBron's 6 finals losses mean more because the road was harder. Fans can keep hearing that argument over and over, but repeating something does not make it stronger. If one player reaches the finish line 6 times and wins every time, and another player reaches it 10 times but loses more than he wins, the first player still has the cleaner championship case. It really is that simple. Competition can add context. It cannot flip the result upside down. Losses do not become wins because the opponent was great. Losses stay losses, wins stay wins, and 6 finals wins with no losses will always carry a weight that 6 finals losses simply cannot match. So when people say LeBron's finals losses are somehow more meaningful than Jordan's finals wins, the answer should be direct. No, they are not. They can be understood, they can be discussed, some can even be respected more than others, but they are not more meaningful than winning. They are not more valuable than closing. They are not stronger than perfect success on the biggest stage. Jordan's record remains one of the sharpest facts in sports. 6 trips, 6 titles, no failures in the final round. That is why the debate stays alive, and that is why no amount of spin can fully change how many fans see it. And that is where the conversation should land. Respect LeBron for the greatness he earned. Respect the long run, the numbers, the deep playoff years, and the way he carried the league for a long time. But do not insult logic by pretending 6 losses in the finals are better than 6 wins. Do not lower the meaning of winning just to make the argument work. If the highest stage in basketball means anything, then the man who never lost there has a claim that cannot be brushed away. And until someone matches that kind of clean success, it is always going to be hard to put finals losses, no matter how well explained, above finals wins that